I have to use is Peggy Ann Dempsey Childers. I married a Childers. I found out I was kidnapped in 41 and brought to Moulton, Alabama, and given the name of a twin, Peggy. Both twins were dead, and I found that out in after 83 when I was in a political campaign and flown out to Mr. Flint's. And this was done, this article, in April of 84. And he says, I know who was responsible for his shooting, killing of his attorney in Lawrenceville, Georgia, March the 6th of 78. That was Congressman Larry McDonald, U.S. Congressman doctor at Piedmont Hospital. And I had written about him in a medical malpractice book, MD, A License to Kill, and I was living at Moonraker Apartments in Marietta. And by the way, I knew that Mr. Flint had been, that was a program shooting, because that's what I was writing about. In the movie Moonraker with Roger Moore, and it's a 007, came out a year or so later. I can't remember if it's 1980 or when. But Timothy Dalton's movie came out just after then, and it was A License to Kill, a 007. But I found out in 83 why I was, my kidnapping and everything. It was my father. They've changed history. My father's Edward VIII, who never married Wallace Simpson, a double did. My father was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, Windsor, from Madison, Wisconsin, sister to artist Georgia O'Keefe. So that whole thing was a lie. 99-year seal put on a forced removal of my dad to cover up the crimes, and of course my uncle George VI, who's illegal, and that makes Elizabeth illegal, and the whole brood, and yes, they do know it. All the treaties they signed are illegal, and he had to take his, you talk about Cain and Abel in the Bible, this whole thing was a takedown of my father, nothing but lies. The Illuminati, or the New World Order, the Freemasons, whatever you want to call them, they're the same group. Elizabeth and Charles are members, so are Hillary. And by the way, her daughter Chelsea and her husband Bill Clinton went to Oxford University. You want to know what I was doing? I was helping take care of who I thought was a half-brother at the time, waitressing, walking to school, back, and working 7 days a week waitressing, and taking care of this woman, Lina Dempsey. And I want to say this. I wrote about mind control murders, and this is one of the things about it. Mind control has nothing to do with mental illness. It's made to mimic it. But this man, Holmes, this was done in patterns, and it can be proven. He's been treated for mental illness, and that's horrible. It's not only, it's being used as a torture chamber. It's not only misdiagnosis. There's too many doctors out there that know all about mind control, and not one of them that I know of have gotten on television. There's a lot you can go to mind control, Google it, and find out a lot. But I wanted to put this up because I was almost killed after I did the book, April Fool Day of 1980. I should have died. It was antifreeze. I should have died. What can I say? It was hell. I was taken, shoved in a car, and I'm leaving out most of it, across the state line with Lina Dempsey, the mother of the twins, the woman who helped torture me all my life. And they tried to use the mental health system on me, is what they've done. I got over there, made it, never saw my kids except a couple of times after then. My ex-husband, and there's a question about this because I found out he's CIA, but he took my apartment. They allowed him to have it. It was in my name. There's no question about it. I had a letter from the FBI, June the 23rd of 79. This happened in 80. And the woman who's manager of the apartments that allowed it to happen told me, she says, my uncle was FBI and he was in charge of the Patty Hearst. Well, the Hearst helped take my father down. That's the New World Order that did it. Now I won't be able to read Jack's letter. The rest of his letters have been removed from my file. I didn't know it until now, or last night. So these are the only two left, and I'm going to read a portion of them. First of all, Jack was FBI and a reporter. And to tell you what they had to do, I had to pass a background check to work for the district attorney in '80, after the antifreeze and all that, illegal across the state line. And the condition I was in, it was a living, ongoing hell. Passed background check by the Sheriff Patterson as to work for Simpson. I lived at Warren House, so you make the connections here between Simpson and Warren House and the Kennedys, and they helped kid me. Joe Kennedy was ambassador to England during that time, appointed by Roosevelt. And my own uncle, George VI, got in on my kidnapping, takedown of my father. Now, Jack was there, and he helped save my life in '80. He worked for the Huntsville Times. And the police chief, or the man that sent in 1980, was a former FBI, Salvador Vizzini. He was sent there specifically to help save my life too. Now then, I didn't know until '83 about my real name. Jack moved out later to Santa Clarita, California, and I hope he's still alive. This letter was June the 25th of 2008. He knew Larry Flint. In fact, he saw him on occasion. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I wanted to read just a portion of it. First of all, I want to go back to this first and read the last part. Jack, when they had saved my life in '80, well, actually it was in '82, there was a woman later killed. She was a professor at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, and she went in. Her name was Amy Bishop, and she suddenly just decided, supposedly, to shoot 3 fellow professors and kill 3. And then they went back to, there was the death of her brother up in Boston, and I believe that her mother was in law enforcement there. She was programmed. Her attorney, by the way, was Attorney Miller, and I spoke with him in 2010, and he reminded me he worked briefly with me at the DA's office. Now, they had to plead her with insanity. This is mind control, has nothing to do with mental illness. But I wanted to read the last page, if I may, here. We're still in the national security theme mode, the same theme that led to Iran-Contra and a lot of other things. DeLucci, Sicilian born and raised in Cairo, Illinois, and is the son of the late Vegas beer distributor. Nick, his family's maverick, is a former Los Angeles homicide detective, Vietnam veteran, and now a contractor with one of these 3-letter federal agencies. DeLucci, incidentally, was the guy who introduced me to his friend Don Behringer. Now, I do have a letter of that, a copy of the email, but I'm not going to put that on there, up here. The Peter Abbott lookalike. I know all about Peter Abbott. I worked in DA's office, and I saw 2020 and how it was switched when this woman was she was there with Jack. I thought she was a friend. Evidently not. I didn't know this was in here. But Peter Abbott was connected with her, and it was supposed to be on 2020, and they deleted it. And I'll just go from here. Peter, you recall, was a federal protection witness in Huntsville who was ousted by Susan Boda, a.k.a. Thompson, and Glenn Brooks. Susan now resides in Reseda, California. Her son, John Thompson, was a Los Angeles County deputy sheriff, murdered a number of years ago, not a mile from where I currently live and 6 houses from a friend of mine today. At my request, DeLucci did look at the circumstances of John Thompson's murder, including the lengthy manuscript of the trial of the guy who shot John to death. DeLucci would only tell me not to ask more questions about John Thompson's murder because even the trial and the verdict smelled to high heaven. Well, it was mind control. And for DeLucci's own reasons, which he would not explain, he told me I shouldn't trust Susan Boda, a.k.a. Thompson, and that she was passing on information about the